Today, I'm reviewing the Viltrox DC 550 Pro Mark II. This is a 5.5-inch 1400 nit on-camera monitor with HDMI 2.0, touch controls, custom LUT support, multiple power options, and the big new feature, camera control. I've tested a lot of budget filmmaking gear on this channel, and monitors are one of those tools that might look good on paper, but can be really annoying to use on the field. So in this video, I'm going to walk through what makes the Viltrox DC 550 Pro Mark II special and whether it's actually worth picking up for yourself. And stick around because I'll be giving away one of these monitors to a lucky viewer, and you'll have to learn how to sign up at the very end of this video. This is Viltrox's updated 5.5-inch on-camera monitor that has some really nice upgrades from the Mark I, especially when you consider a monitor of this price range. First, let's cover the core features of this monitor. It is a 5.5-inch IPS display, has a max brightness of 1400 nits. It has full screen touch controls. You have a precision control dial on the side. You have 3 custom shortcut keys on the top of the monitor. The HDMI is a 2.0 input and output. You get up to 4K 60 Hz signal support. You have an SD card slot for firmware updates, custom 3D LUTs, and onion skinning. You can power this using an MPF battery, a DC barrel port, or a USB-C power. This has a ton of vents all around to help with heat management, and the new Gen 2 features include added camera control and that onion skinning. But specs are only half of the story, so let me talk about the experience of using this monitor. Because this is only 5.5 inches, it is more compact than your 7-inch monitors that I'm used to running on my rigs. But that may be an advantage to you if you have a smaller camera setup and you don't want to have such a bulky rig setup. This is definitely a lot more compact and neat looking on a camera body. The touch control functions all work perfectly. I have no issues when it comes to responsiveness, and it's actually really cool. They've updated it so that if you rotate the monitor, it will rotate the UI as well. So you're not going to be having to learn how to read things upside down or backwards, especially if you do mount this in either vertical form or even upside down. As always, I think brightness is super important on a monitor, and this one only goes to 1400 nits, which is, about the brightness of your iPhone at max brightness, and in broad daylight, that isn't gonna cut it. But these do come with a detachable sun hood that when you put it on here, let me see, it, 1, protects the screen, but 2, when you open it up, now you have a lot better shade and you can see the monitor, although from the sides you're getting a little cut off, but they're angled, so you can look at an angle, but you may not get the full screen. So the sun hood really works, and I basically use it all the time. I think the sun hood's just a nice addition, once again, to protect the screen, and for those bright outdoor shoots, it is helpful. Using this monitor is super intuitive. The menu and UI has been updated from their other Viltrox monitors, and I do think this one looks a lot cleaner and simpler. One of the first things I like to do with my monitors is to customize those function keys, and so I set mine to more features I use, which is typically peaking, false color, and LUTs on and off. Loading LUTs onto this is very simple. You just use the SD card port on the top. I'm not going to go over all of the other monitoring tools because that's pretty understood. So you do have things like histogram, waveform, false color, zebras, LUTs, different markers, anamorphic D-squeeze. The list kind of goes on. I will show you the full feature list here on screen. So what I really want to cover are the 2 additional features, which include the onion skin feature and the camera control feature. Let's start with camera control. To use camera control on this monitor, you have 2 options actually. You can do Bluetooth or use a USB-C cable. I was unable to get the Bluetooth to work with my cameras, but I do see on their list on their website that a lot of the Sony cameras do take advantage of this Bluetooth signal. But using the USB-C cable worked really well for my cameras. And you can do all of the main functions you want to do on a camera, which include aperture control, shutter speed control, white balance, ISO, and even touch to focus. However, the thing that disappointed me was that the touch to focus only does a single shot and not continuous tracking. And let's talk about the onion skin feature. So if you're unfamiliar with what onion skin means, it just allows you to overlay an image on your monitor so that you can help frame and sort of match cut things if you'd like. You can adjust the transparency of this image using a slider here. And the only way you can use an image or load an image is to have an SD card in the monitor. So you may want to get a small SD card that will live dedicated on the monitor. But once you do, it's a super nice feature to take advantage of, especially if you want to do more creative shots. The ones that come to my mind are like match cuts, where you want something to be in the exact spot and the exact space of each frame. And so you can load that onion skin from a previous shot, lay it over when you move to your next location and make sure everything's framed properly, same distance, whatever. And then now you know you have a decent match cut. So what are some of the issues I found with this monitor? If I'm being honest, I'm really just nitpicking here, but I will say the HDMI ports on the bottom of the monitor make it really hard to mount if you don't have a top handle or a side handle. So if you just use the provided mount that comes with the monitor and then try to plug in an HDMI cable under that, just directly on your camera's hot shoe, it doesn't fit very nicely, at least not the ones that I have. A decent workaround I can think of is probably getting like a right angle HDMI cord, but then you're potentially blocking the HDMI out, and I guess that would be the only way. And so that was just a little annoying. I prefer when the HDMIs are typically on the back, I think is best, just because it's out of the way of every other cable and port. Also, this monitor is not an aluminum chassis. It does feel quite plasticky, so you definitely want to be a little more delicate with this. It's not like you're gonna toss it or anything like that, but I do prefer when the monitors are much more heavier build, because then I'm not worried about it like getting damaged even in like my luggage. I was also disappointed that the camera controls touch focus wasn't tracking. That would have been the most helpful feature for me, and I think it might vary based on camera model. I know the C50 doesn't even allow it to any other device, and so it's not a fault particularly on this monitor, but I wish it did work on the cameras I have. And lastly, this thing does have the max brightness of 1400, which if you're using this indoors is not an issue, but I really am shooting outdoors quite a bit. And so if I had 2,000 to 3,000 nits, this would definitely make the top cut, but then that's probably gonna add to the bulk, size, weight, and the heat management issue. And so 1400 nits is fine and will work for most users, but if you're someone who does need that broad daylight use, you may want to get something brighter than this. So if you stayed all the way until this point, let me talk about how you can win one of these monitors in this video. So for the first, I'll give it actually 2 weeks of this video going live. If you comment "Thank you Viltrox" in the comment section below with a short, I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 sentences on why you would like this monitor, I will be choosing one of those lucky commenters to win this, and I'll DM you afterwards. I'll make a community post and everything, get your information so that I can actually ship this off to you. Huge thanks to Viltrox for sponsoring this video. And if you're watching this post giveaway, there will be links to buy this monitor in the description box and pinned comments down below. If you enjoyed this camera monitor review video, you can check out my last one on the OC G7 Pro here. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. I appreciate every single one of you who do, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.